1 minute ago, Diddy exposes Jay-Z in court, judge orders Beyoncé detained pending investigation. Trigger warning. This story contains graphic depictions of sexual abuse, psychological manipulation, and legal conflict. All facts are based on verified legal filings and public court documents. March 2025. The courtroom was tense. On the stand sat Jane Doe. Her identity legally protected her voice, steady but low. For the first time in public record, she described a night in 2000 that changed the trajectory of her life. It was the after-party, VMA night. I remember the drink tasted off, then the room blurred. The next thing I remember, Jay-Z was there. So was Diddy, and a woman they called Celebrity B. They locked the door. Across from her sat Sean Jay-Z Carter, flanked by his legal team. His jaw clenched. He'd heard the story before months ago in civil court filings, but today the words hung heavier. What began as a quiet civil suit had erupted into a cultural firestorm. Doe's lawsuit alleged that at just 13 years old, she was assaulted at a party hosted by music mogul Sean Combs, aka Diddy. The bombshell Jay-Z was named as a participant. We believe Mr. Carter was present, and his name has surfaced in corroborated witness statements and visual archives. Attorney Tony Busby declared. Jay-Z's team fought back hard. Alex Spiro, his lead counsel, labeled the allegations fiction weaponized by fame-hungry opportunists. But the court allowed the case to proceed. Meanwhile, Diddy had already been indicted in a separate federal case, human trafficking, coercion, and racketeering. Sources inside the DOJ confirmed Diddy had started to talk. During a closed-door session in February 2025, he allegedly provided names, one of them Jay-Z. You know who was there, he reportedly told federal prosecutors, pointing at a list. Within 72 hours, warrants were allegedly issued for Jay-Z and Beyoncé. Social media exploded. Hashtags like J'appelle expose the Carters and Jane Doe Truth topped trending lists worldwide. But there was doubt. Doe's account was emotional yet inconsistent. She claimed her father picked her up that night, but he denied remembering such an event. And then came the leak. He didn't touch me, but they said add his name or no one would care. A voice, allegedly Jane Doe's, in a covert recording aired on NBC. Her words sparked national outrage. Jay-Z went on the offensive. He sued Jane Doe and Busby for defamation, demanding $20 million in damages. The complaint included emails, timeline evidence, and internal messages from Busby's team. If we link Carter, this becomes a global case. Judge Annalisa Torres allowed discovery to proceed. For the first time, private communications between a legal team and media outlets would be subpoenaed. Jay-Z's business empire, Rock Nation, multiple endorsements, Netflix projects, and sports partnerships were all at risk. Meanwhile, Diddy remained locked in Brooklyn's MDC facility, preparing for a trial that could last years. More plaintiffs emerged. One, Joseph Manzaro, claimed abuse at a 2015 Miami party attended by both Jay-Z and Beyoncé. But evidence quickly proved Jay-Z was in New York. Manzaro dropped the claim. Beyoncé's silence became a subject of scrutiny. Eventually she posted, "I believe in truth, I believe in justice, and I believe in protecting my family from falsehoods designed to destroy." Support rallied. Spotify reactivated Jay-Z curated playlists. The NFL renewed its partnership, but the court battle was far from over. Judge Torres summoned both parties for a closed hearing regarding a sealed USB drive containing what she called highly material audio. No one knew what was on it. Not yet. This court will hear the audio in private session first. Judge Annalisa Torres's voice echoed through the hushed courtroom. The sealed USB drive at the center of mounting national attention was now officially part of the case record. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, reporters silenced by the court's gag order, yet furiously scribbling every moment. In chambers, Judge Torres and her clerks reviewed the contents of the flash drive. What they found shifted the entire course of proceedings. A hushed recording, one female voice, nervous, uncertain. "They told me if I didn't put Carter's name, the media wouldn't care. I didn't want to, but they said it was the only way." Judge Torres's expression, according to insiders, changed. Not rage, not disbelief, something far more dangerous: doubt. Jay-Z's legal team went into overdrive. The voice, they claimed, matched Jane Doe's publicly available interviews. Within 48 hours, a formal motion was filed: dismissal of all civil claims and immediate sanctioning of opposing counsel for legal manipulation. Tony Busby responded with fury. "This is a distraction tactic. The audio is not authenticated. Even if it is, Jane Doe coercion doesn't erase trauma." But the damage was done. The internet had already reacted. Hashtag #HeWasFramed hit 10 million shares in under a week. YouTube explainer videos dissected the waveform of the audio. Reddit theorists on Trayar True Crime and Trar Political Scandals compared voice samples. Beyoncé's old VMA speech resurfaced. "Silence is power." This time it was captioned with irony. Alex Spiro pivoted. Rather than merely defend, he attacked. A new motion was introduced: a subpoena for all communications between Jane Doe's legal team and major media outlets. Text messages, emails, even PR scheduling calendars. An internal email surfaced: "We drop Carter's name. Leaked timing 24 HRs before suit. Big enough to go global." Busby Law Media Coordinator, NOV, 2024. Tony Busby tried to stall. He motioned to seal further discovery, citing ongoing client trauma. But Judge Torres, newly emboldened, denied the motion. "We are not in the business of narrative warfare. We are here for justice." Meanwhile, federal investigators in Diddy's criminal trial observed everything, and then leaked something explosive: a sealed grand jury statement, where Diddy allegedly said, "Jay didn't do that shit, but I needed a name." His name made headlines. The leak, unverified but published by The Intercept, spread like gasoline across dry grass. A senior anchor at CNN, previously sympathetic to Jane Doe's narrative, walked off air mid-broadcast, stating, "I won't be part of framing someone for clicks. Truth matters more than outrage." Within hours, segments were pulled, reels deleted. Anonymous staffers admitted they'd been fed press packages by Busby's firm. Beyoncé made a rare unscripted appearance at Howard University, addressing students. "Justice is a long song, but when it plays right, no lie can hold the rhythm." Students applauded. Critics called it performative, but the message was clear: they weren't hiding anymore. Diddy's separate case grew darker. The DOJ subpoenaed 17 former assistants. Several confirmed his parties included NDAs, burner phones, and locked room protocols. One revealed under oath there were folders, names, footage, insurance. Asked if Jay-Z was among them, the reply came clear: his name was never on anything, not once. Busby filed a countersuit for defamation via defamation response, claiming Jay-Z's legal motions had damaged his firm's reputation. But The Atlantic published a brutal exposé titled "The Lawyer Who Lit the Fire and Burned the Truth." Late April 2025. A new hearing. USB audio played for both parties under court seal. Following it, Torres issued a bombshell statement. "This court finds reason to believe the allegations involving Mr. Carter were introduced with intent to amplify exposure, not to reflect truth." She paused. "We are proceeding with a discovery audit. For Jay-Z, this was exoneration in slow motion. For Diddy, a deeper hole. Prosecutors filed an amended RICO complaint naming new co-conspirators, but not Carter. For Jane Doe, questions lingered. Trauma doesn't dissolve even if parts of a story bend. But the court wasn't judging feelings, it judged facts. TikTokers launched a challenge. Clear my name. Victims of false claims sharing stories of collapse and clawback. Podcasters debated the ethics of media manipulation. Influencers deleted clickbait videos. Even TMZ ran a quiet editorial, "We chase fame, we forgot fairness." And in the background, Diddy sat in MDC Brooklyn requests for protective custody rising. His former associates jumped ship. Some flipped, some vanished. Meanwhile, Beyoncé and Jay-Z walked calmly into court hand in hand. No quotes, just presence. Because now the trial wasn't just legal, it was personal. April 2025. A spring rain fell steadily over Manhattan, but the legal heat inside the courtroom had reached boiling point. The sealed audio from the USB had officially become admissible, and Judge Torres had summoned both parties for a joint evidentiary hearing. The courtroom was at capacity. Jay-Z sat stoic, flanked by his attorneys. Across the aisle, Tony Busby looked notably tense. Jane Doe was not present, her counsel cited health concerns, but her absence only magnified the spotlight on her representation. The court clerk played the audio for the room. They said if Carter's name wasn't in it, no one would print the story. They promised it would be fast. I didn't want to, but they told me it's him or nothing. Gasps. No coughing, no movement. Just a collective breath held. Judge Torres looked up. Let the record reflect that the voice was authenticated by an independent forensic firm contracted by the court. Fauci, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox all broke programming to run synchronized lower thirds voice, confirms name, drop for publicity. Even left-leaning commentators who'd previously condemned Jay-Z pivoted sharply. NPR aired a special segment titled "The Cost of Believability in the Court of Public Opinion." Alex Spiro didn't wait. He motioned to strike all mentions of Jay-Z from Doe's original complaint and introduced a $50 million amended defamation suit, citing loss of income, reputation damage, emotional distress, and reputational assassination. Busby tried to counter. He claimed the tape was taken out of context. My client was under duress, he said. This is selective narrative warfare. But Judge Torres was unconvinced. She ordered a forensic audit of all digital communications between Busby's firm media outlets and advocacy groups. The ruling sent shockwaves through the legal community. Whistleblowers emerged. A junior associate from Busby's firm leaked internal strategy decks titled Celebrity Leverage Framework and Narrative Impact Forecasting. The documents laid out press release timelines tied to suit filings, influencer seeding, and pre-written headlines. One slide read, "Attach Carter, drive momentum, settle fast." At a rare press conference, Jay-Z stepped up to the podium. I've been silent because I believe in law, not spectacle. But now that truth is catching up, let me be clear. No one, no matter how powerful, gets to use my name as currency in a war I never started. He paused. This wasn't about justice. This was about clout. And the system enabled it. That stops here. Entertainment firms began reviewing their crisis protocols. PR agencies were audited. Law firms revised their client intake policies. Legal Twitter exploded with debate over the ethics of lawsuit publicity coordination. Meanwhile, Beyoncé posted a quiet black square with a single caption, "Truth is the longest note." It got 21 million likes. At the same time, prosecutors in Diddy's RICO case revealed a damning new document and email from 2016 where he allegedly wrote, "Everyone's got secrets. Mine are just insured. Some in vaults, some in names." His cryptic message was part of a larger archive, 30,000 pages of data stored in offshore servers, allegedly including footage, NDAs, and name registries of party attendees going back to 1998. Jay-Z's name was not among them. Then came the unexpected. A second woman, previously silent, stepped forward. Her affidavit stated I was approached to join the Doe suit. They asked me to say I saw Carter. I said no. They dropped me. The document was notarized, time-stamped, and submitted under penalty of perjury. Jane Doe's credibility was rapidly deteriorating. Judge Torres issued a chilling directive. This court will examine whether the actions of the plaintiff's legal counsel constitute abuse of process. Busby stammered. He requested recess. Denied. Jay-Z's legal team filed for a judicial referral to the Bar Association, citing possible ethical violations including evidence suppression, media manipulation, and false public accusations. Public mood. Turns YouTube flooded with titles like Jay-Z was set up, the evidence. Busby's empire falling apart. When advocacy becomes exploitation. Spotify restored every Jay-Z playlist. Netflix resumed development on his biopic. The NFL publicly reaffirmed its Roc Nation partnership. April 28. Judge Torres reconvened the hearing. In light of the cumulative evidence, audio testimony, corroborated documents, and witness reversal, this court suspends all remaining civil proceedings against Sean Carter, pending formal dismissal review. A loud murmur, one journalist cried. But Jay-Z wasn't done. He announced Project Mirror, a new legal initiative aimed at supporting those falsely accused through crowdsourced legal defense, voice forensic testing, and media accountability. Being falsely accused in the age of virality is not a headline, it's a life sentence. That ends today. As Part 3 closed, the storm had not passed, but the winds had changed. And at the eye of the hurricane, Jay-Z was no longer a defendant. He was a force. As the courtroom reassembled on the fourth day of revelations, the gravity of the proceedings deepened. Whispers filled the gallery as new evidence was admitted, an encrypted file, extracted from the USB provided by David James. This digital trove, decrypted by forensic analysts from the Department of Justice, revealed a systematic network of NDAs, financial transactions, and classified guest logs, linking multiple entertainment executives and political figures to Diddy's inner circle. Kash Patel, seated with his investigative team, requested immediate review of the file's metadata. His analysis indicated tampered timestamps on communications between Diddy and an unnamed advisor within the DOJ, fueling allegations of internal corruption. The revelation prompted Judge Torres to authorize a confidential evidentiary review, placing the courtroom in a rare closed session. Outside, the public's curiosity reached a fever pitch. Media vans surrounded the courthouse, pundits speculated feverishly on cable news, and trending hashtags like Chuck Carter Gate and Truth on Trial flooded social media. Protesters and supporters alike clashed on the steps of the federal building, holding placards that read, "Justice for Jane Doe" and "Stop the Smear." Meanwhile, Mia, the former assistant whose voice had ignited this firestorm, watched from a remote location under federal protection. Her testimony was set to be reintroduced via video, this time augmented with hospital records, confirming the physical and psychological trauma endured during her tenure with Diddy. Medical reports cited multiple forced administrations of Depo-Provera and documented symptoms consistent with sustained abuse. Back in court, Diddy's lead counsel, appearing visibly shaken, began to unravel under cross-examination. Prosecutor Lee Adams presented a series of screenshots showing communication between Diddy and the CNN executive codenamed Pinnacle. In the messages, Pinnacle discussed a containment strategy to shift public focus by implicating the Trump administration in a decades-old scandal. The court gasped. Judge Torres called for order. Kash Patel interjected, offering context from previous intelligence briefings. "This isn't just about celebrity crime," he declared. "This is a manipulation campaign, leveraging the media to distract from judicial rot." At that moment, a surprise witness entered the fray. Cassie Ventura, missing for weeks, appeared via secure video feed. Her demeanor was calm, her voice unwavering. She confirmed the authenticity of several NDAs and disclosed that her disappearance had been a result of coercion, not flight. "I feared for my life," she said, tears welling in her eyes. But truth matters more. With Cassie's testimony now part of the record, the case against Diddy took on a new dimension. Judge Torres scheduled a special weekend session to review emergent evidence and assess potential charges of conspiracy to obstruct justice. In a powerful closing statement for the day, Prosecutor Adams remarked, "We are now dealing with a machine of influence designed to suppress truth through fear power and media manipulation. But that machine is failing." As the session adjourned, murmurs of indictments against media figures and public officials rippled through the corridors. The line between celebrity scandal and state-level corruption was quickly evaporating. Kash Patel, scribbling furiously in his notebook, glanced up at the gallery. "The real trial," he whispered to his aide, "is just beginning." The courtroom fell into a rare moment of stillness as the prosecution rested its next bombshell. A forensic document analysis revealing detailed financial transfers from companies linked to Diddy's entertainment empire to several anonymous shell accounts registered offshore. The lead forensic accountant, under oath, outlined the meticulous laundering routes allegedly used to pay off witnesses, fund luxury events, and more chillingly, to underwrite silence. Mia, now seated beside her attorney, stared straight ahead. Her posture was unshaken, but her clenched jaw betrayed the storm behind her eyes. The judge addressed the jury, urging them to pay close attention to the next piece of evidence, a digital reconstruction of WhatsApp and Signal conversations extracted from a USB drive submitted by David James. These messages weren't just idle chats. They were layered with coded terms, references to inventory guests and white knights. Prosecutors translated the lingo in court, building a timeline of events aligning perfectly with Mia's allegations, the parties, the coercion, the disappearances. A particular exchange involving Cassie V sent ripples through the courtroom, especially after an investigator testified. Cassie's phone pinged its last known location from a private airfield on the night she went missing. More damning still was an encrypted voice note recovered from Diddy's assistant's phone, played aloud in court. The speaker, believed to be Diddy, uttered the phrase, "They start talking, they disappear." A heavy silence followed the playback. Mia visibly trembled. Her attorney stood. "Your Honor, we ask the court to take judicial notice of the chilling intent evidenced by this recording." The defense, under mounting pressure, tried to counteract the shock by calling former employees to testify to Diddy's philanthropic work and mentorship. But under cross-examination, inconsistencies emerged. One witness admitted to signing a non-disclosure agreement after a party in Miami. Another refused to confirm whether they'd seen Cassie since 2023. Outside the courthouse, journalists buzzed. Headlines streamed across cable news tickers. "Cassie Ventura, presumed dead, trial intensifies, Diddy's empire, crumbling in court." A crowd gathered holding signs demanding justice for Mia and the missing. On day 19 of the trial, the prosecution called Kash Patel, calm, precise, and backed with folders of previously unreleased federal documents. Patel explained how he had begun cross-referencing missing persons reports with event schedules from Diddy's entertainment firm. The overlap was disturbing. He revealed that multiple guests at exclusive events were under criminal investigation or tied to human trafficking watch lists. Patel's data showed a pattern: post-event medical incidents, sudden job resignations, sudden relocations abroad. Each thread pointed back to Diddy's closed-circle parties. The defense objected, calling Patel's testimony speculative. The judge overruled. "This is no longer speculation. The pattern is prosecutable." Kash Patel ended with a stark statement. "This is no longer about one man's criminality. This is systemic, and it's protected by media silence, money, and influence." In a private hearing the next morning, the judge allowed a new witness, a woman only referred to as K.Y. Shower, a former assistant to one of the named media executives, allegedly helping bury the story. Her voice, though modulated for anonymity, detailed a media strategy playbook designed to counteract viral outrage. Buzzwords like pivot point, decoy headline, and counter-celebrity were printed on internal memos. She handed over flash drives. "These show how outlets, including one where I worked, receive payment to reroute attention from serious allegations. In the public session that afternoon, Mia took the stand again. This time she did not weep. Her voice was firm. "I speak now not just for myself, but for every girl who thought silence was safe." She detailed how Depo-Provera was injected into her without consent. "It made me sick. I felt like I was dying, but I couldn't tell anyone because he had eyes everywhere." Gasps echoed in the chamber. One juror wiped away tears. The defense attorney rose for cross-examination, but was immediately interrupted. The judge warned him, "One more manipulative line of questioning, and you'll be held in contempt." That day ended in media pandemonium. Leaks suggested more names were under investigation, some from within the current administration. The court buzzed with anticipation as the final phase of the hearing unfolded. What had begun as a web of secrets, power, and accusations had evolved into one of the most intense legal showdowns in modern entertainment history. The courtroom was packed, journalists, legal experts, public observers, all straining to capture every word, every gesture. At the center stood the Carter name, shaken but not yet toppled. Jay-Z, flanked by his legal team, appeared resolute. His countersuit had begun to change the narrative, not only around himself, but around how media, fame, and justice intertwine in the 21st century. The trial was no longer about a singular accusation. It had become a cultural examination, a stress test for the court of law in the age of virality. Judge Torres resumed the bench with a tone of finality. Her voice rang firm, addressing both sides equally. What unfolds today will ripple far beyond this courtroom. The first bombshell came early, an affidavit from an anonymous whistleblower inside a prominent media outlet. It contained emails and memos revealing how executives had orchestrated targeted headlines, not for truth, but for engagement metrics. One line read, "Attach Jay-Z's name and we spike 30%. Jay-Z's lead counsel, Alex Spiro, presented the document with gravity. "This isn't just defamation. This is a monetized deception." In parallel, depositions revealed coordinated efforts among influencer agents and certain public relations firms to ride trending allegations for client exposure. Screenshots of strategy decks titled "Scandal Leverage Funnels" made their way into evidence, naming Jay-Z as a primary case study. Meanwhile, testimony from a cybersecurity expert explained how old fabricated content had been injected into the internet ecosystem to mimic organic outrage. "Digital smoke," he called it. "You light enough of it, and people believe there's fire." The final pivot came from Jane Doe herself. In a private deposition leaked to the press, she admitted to inconsistencies. Though she insisted on being a victim, she confessed to being pressured into framing Jay-Z due to his visibility. "They told me if it wasn't a big name, it wouldn't matter," she said. The confession sent a shockwave through the courtroom. Judge Torres convened a special evidentiary session closed to the public, but confirmed to include the full review of audio recordings, PR memos, and financial transactions tied to Jane Doe's team. The result, a recommendation for a formal investigation into attorney Tony Busby and his firm's potential misconduct. The Bar Association opened an ethics inquiry within the week. Jay-Z, in a rare media appearance post-trial, remained composed. "This was never about me alone. It's about what happens when we mistake headlines for justice." Across the entertainment industry, NDAs were re-examined. Law firms held internal reviews. Record labels tightened security policies. A cultural reckoning, once theoretical, was now underway. Jay-Z's nonprofit Project Mirror received an immediate influx of donations and high-profile board members' figures, like Ava DuVernay Van Jones and Michael B. Jordan. Meanwhile, Diddy remained in custody. Prosecutors, emboldened by the court's acceptance of the new digital evidence, extended their investigation. More names emerged, some high-profile, others shockingly obscure. The message was clear: the machinery of abuse was deeper than fame. In a televised interview, a former assistant to Diddy admitted they had witnessed multiple incidents covered up with money and media influence. "We weren't allowed to speak. Our jobs, our lives were contracts of silence. The FBI launched an independent audit of NDAs used by top-tier talent agencies and production companies. The Department of Justice announced a review panel on celebrity influence and legal shielding. For Jay-Z, the damage, though partially repaired, had lasting scars. His legal name had been cleared, but the emotional toll was visible. In the closing pages of the legal decision, Judge Torres wrote, "Mr. Carter withstood a media storm few could endure. The court finds that the evidence overwhelmingly supports that his inclusion in the initial claim was manufactured for influence, not fact." As summer 2025 approached, Jay-Z returned quietly to his businesses. No press tours, no self-congratulatory campaigns. Just a statement on his company's website. Truth is not always loud, but when it speaks, it doesn't whisper. The media shifted. Netflix greenlit a limited docuseries on trial by internet, hosted by former CNN anchor Don Lemon. HBO approached Jay-Z for consulting on a drama exploring modern defamation law. The legal community held its first-ever symposium on high-profile cases and viral influence, citing Carter v. Doe as the case study. Beyoncé, ever a pillar through the chaos, continued her activism with new force. She launched an initiative to educate young women about digital consent, deepfakes, and reputation management. In the end, Jay-Z stood not just as a defendant exonerated, but as a cultural protagonist. Not flawless, but humans. He had fought not only for his name, but for a system struggling to balance scrutiny with fairness. And as the headlines faded, a new story emerged, one of vigilance, accountability, and the fragile power of public truth.